Hi, and welcome to Your Choice 2022 General Election coverage on HOMTV. I'm Sydney Kenser. Today we're here for a candidate interview with Chris Stewart, a Republican who is running for 75th District Representative in the state legislature. Thanks so much for joining us today. At this time, we'd like to give you the opportunity to briefly introduce yourself to our viewers.
Yeah, my name is Chris Stewart. I'm from Bath, Michigan, and I'm running for the 75th House seat.
Thank you. Each 75th District candidate will be asked a standard list of questions. For question 1, please explain how your education and professional background make you an ideal candidate for 75th District Representative in state legislature.
So I've been doing leadership since I've been about 10 years old. I started with 4-H. I ended up becoming captain in my athletic teams in high school, and then I became an Eagle Scout. And through that, I got to be able to go to college where I was on scholarship for football. And in that process also, I ended up being on the leadership council for the team, which was super exciting. Ended up getting my degree from Adrian College in teacher education, physical education, health and rec with a minor in biology. I had originally gone to be an environmental science major with a business management minor. I like to say that I had an associate's in that, although that's not real. And then as soon as I got out of college, there weren't jobs here in education, so I went to Florida and started teaching there. And in that process, I realized I wanted to be in college athletics, and so I ended up coming back home and becoming a grad assistant for John L. Smith, Mark D'Antonio in that era, and under Ken Manny in strength and conditioning. And then I ended up going into becoming a football coach at Olivet College. And then from there, I got put into a lot of leadership roles into other spaces. While continuing my community engagement and service, I did a lot of work in the conservation area and boards. And then I became the head strength and conditioning coach. So I took the program from 1 sport to 25 sports and 650 student athletes. Became in charge of and advised the Student Athlete Advisory Committee, which essentially is like the Senate or the House of like athletics within the institution. The NCAA ended up recruiting me to go teach leadership across the country. And then I came back from doing a lot of that for about 3 years. And I ended up being the Student Athlete Advisory Committee advisor for the entire conference, so the Michigan Intercollegiate Athletic Association. And through that process, again, I was always doing a lot of work with conservation groups, and because that's one of my major passions in the history of mine. And then I got recruited into business. So I ended up working for a company, a corporate company out of Chicago, selling weight room equipment. And who doesn't want to buy weight room equipment from a strength and conditioning coach? And through that process, I looked at it and said, hey, I find that there's leadership education that's needed for people, both CEOs and mid-management. So I started my own company, started a youth nonprofit to do the same thing, connect those. And then I got recruited by the company I'm with now. And essentially, we're building the marketing team as we continue to build the marketing team there. That's just been a huge blessing. And I think all of those together has allowed me to, be in several different industries and being able to teach leadership through all of those industries, and then also been successful in every single one of them. So we've been able to build, and all of that combined with, and that those are transferable skills to me that allows me to, I feel, be an exceptional person in the House of Representatives.
Please tell us about the communities and people of the 75th District and how you plan to meet their needs.
Yeah, everyone's typically very wonderful in the community. So the 75th, so I guess I'll go through the whole districting of exactly what that looks like. So there's 5 townships in Clinton County. That's Bingham, Ovid, Victor, Olive, and Bath. And then every city that's in that. So that's St. John's the city, Ovid City, and including the annexation from Bath and East Lansing there too. And then we'll kind of go to the east, and in in Shiawassee County, you've got Scioto Township, the city of Langsburg, and Woodhull Township. And then we come to Ingham County, where we are now, which is all of Williamstown Township, not the city, and then everything north of Grand River. So what I like to tell people is where Meridian Mall is, that's my district. Where Meyer is, not my district. And then you're going to push that into East Lansing. So you're still following that Grand River. And I'd say that campus isn't the district, but all the bars and the restaurants, that is my district. And then I like to tell people, let's put a pin right in the bowling alley there in Frandor, because that's the southwest pin of the district. And then you're going to take that north and a kind of around DeWitt, and then just kind of head up back into where we started there. And that's the whole area. So describing the people are wonderful. But there is an eclectic group, right? So city life in East Lansing is different than even being in Meridian Township. And it is significantly different than being in like Williamstown Township, where it's a much more rural space. And I'd say Woodhull and Scioto follow that. Bath is a little bit of a combination between them all. So I'd call that like a great melting pot of all of those areas. And then when you get north into Ovid, Olive, Victor, and Bingham, in that area, again, you're getting back to a more rural space. So their values and what they see as their problems within their towns are different than the ones in East Lansing. And so to be exceptional at this position, you're going to have to problem solve from different perspectives and understand how everybody works together, and ensure that, like, my goal is to ensure that everybody has a voice, no matter who you are. So if you're in Ovid, where the population is significantly lower than, say, East Lansing, I want them all to be able to come to me and have a voice at the table.
Wonderful, thank you. The next several questions we're going to cover prominent issues in Michigan. So please comment on Proposal 22-3 and share your thoughts on the current and future governing of abortion in Michigan.
Yeah, so this is a tough one, right? So, and sensitive to many people. It's on the ballot. That's the first thing I would tell people, and I think that's where it should be. So it's there for people. It's up to the people now, and I think that's the best form of government, where the community gets to make the decisions. And in this instance, the entire state of Michigan gets to collaborate, say, this is going to happen or this isn't going to happen. And I think that's a wonderful place to be. And I would also remind people to go look up the proposal online at Ballotopia to ensure that they know and have read through it thoroughly, so they know that exactly what's on that because this is going to be a big deal. And so I want people to be well engaged and well educated. And at the same time, I'm just a big proponent of that, the people get to make the best decisions for themselves and for their families. And I think that's what's most important.
Please speak on the state's teacher shortage and your plans, if any, to address it.
Yeah, so having been a teacher in the classroom myself, K through higher ed, I feel everybody's pain. I think the number one piece that we can really do that costs no money and is treat teachers in the education system with respect, and talk about teachers with respect. I think that's really imperative and important right now, instead of doing what we've been doing, which I wouldn't say is highlighting them at an exceptional level. I believe education is a silver bullet to many of our problems right now, and I'd love to pay teachers more. I'd like to see more engagement too from members of the community, parents, as well as teachers wanting to be engaged within the community. And that's what brings us together, and that's when people be able to have a larger voice, and teachers get to have that better understanding, because that's usually done on a more local level, and school boards get to make a large portion of those decisions.
All right, share your thoughts then, please, and any plans for school safety within the state.
Yeah, and that's another tough area right now. So the biggest thing I think is, again, I want to go back to engaging parents and what that safety looks like so that they're perfectly aware. I also think I want to train teachers in that safety precaution area as much as we physically can. I think locking schools from the inside out is another great space too. And I just think we need to prepare, prevent, go through that process, and then also recover, and then respond, and then recover. So in that, they continuously doing that full circle of events to make sure that all the kids are taken care of. And the biggest thing that in education is kids need to feel that they're safe, fed, and seen. And when that happens, like, we can really grow in the world of education.
Please share your thoughts on Michigan's current infrastructure and any improvements you'd like to make.
Yeah, so I think we'll need to continue to do well with the roads. Infrastructure, to me, I think that's a place of like access to internet, water, and power as well. And I'd say right now, the big thing that I want to focus on in the world of infrastructure is ensuring that rural areas have access to the internet. So right now what's happening is, I'll give you an example. My parents live less than a quarter mile away from me in Bath. I have internet, they don't. It's unaffordable for them to pay to get another line to their house. And I'd say they do okay, they're pretty middle class. But it's kind of ridiculous that we don't have affordable options right now in rural areas, and it's spotty. And I can also tell you, like, I've got another friend in Ovid who has 5 kids, and they're all going to school at the same time. She works from home, and they don't have a big enough server to withstand all of those kids trying to get online to do their work for class. She needs to do her work too. We just need to continue to build that out and make that so it's both affordable and accessible for everybody.
What is your attitude towards fiscal responsibility in the state government?
I think that's all about spending money intentionally and being very specific. I think it's exactly like personal finance, where you're going to set priorities, and in those priorities, you're going to decide, what your wants and what your needs are. You're going to do your needs, take care of those with the money that we have, and then you're going to try to dive into those wants, right? What's affordable? But the biggest thing to me is to not live outside of your means, and that goes with state government too.
How do you plan to address economic instability and inflation within the state?
The first thing I want to do is make sure that we spend our surplus money that we have right now from the state. I want to make sure that we spend that wisely. I think it's all about communicating with the district about what they feel that their priorities are, being able to take that to Lansing, have that conversation, and then invest in those priorities. I think we do a lot of things sometimes in state government where we talk a big talk, but there's not a lot of action behind that. And this is an area where I think if we're setting the correct intentions that the constituency is saying is very important, and to me that's infrastructure, education, and conservation, then we're going to be able to show that through investment that those are the things we care about.
Yes, can you continue to address the preservation of Michigan's natural resources?
Yeah, so I come from a family, kind of built in natural resources, and I've been doing that for such a long time. So the number one thing I want to do is just completely protect the 4.6 million acres of public land that we have. And in that process, I think we can reduce some of our carbon footprint and move into that direction as well. But I believe we're number 4 in the country in accessible land opportunities, and I want to keep it that way. It helps us with mental health. We can go fishing, hunting, snowboarding, four-wheeling, you can go to the dunes, swimming. There's a plethora of things that we as Michiganders get to enjoy about our natural resources. And Michigan holds 20% of the world's fresh water. So protecting that is extremely vital, And it's not just vital to the state of Michigan, it's not just vital to the country, it's a vital aspect to the entire world. So we have to make sure and ensure that we're taking the best care of it as possible.
Please address Michigan's opioid usage and the statewide prevalence of fentanyl.
Yeah, so I think right now the lax prosecution, I would say, of some of our laws in regards to opioid use and fentanyl being brought here into the state of Michigan encourages dealers to think that the state of Michigan is kind of open for business. In terms of helping, I think that treatment is significantly better than punishment for addicts. That's a big space we need to continue to move into. And ultimately, you know, when you're thinking about distribution, we need to be thinking about the bordering states and working with the feds as well, the federal government, and building partnerships there, and then also building partnerships with the Canadian government and making sure that that isn't coming across the border either. And I think, again, we need to be thinking about how we can help people there and how we can both help law enforcement enforce our laws while also helping our addicts.
How do you believe the district and the state of Michigan should approach new or continued diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts?
I mean, the biggest thing is to treat everybody with respect and really, really help everyone, regardless of who you are or where you come from or what you're about. There's a meme that's out that I think people have seen. So there's a game or an event occurring across a fence. And there's three people on the other side of that fence. The first person's a really tall person. That second person is not as tall as the person, that first person. That first person can see over the fence. The second person cannot. And I think there's a little bit of kind of a tear in the meme. And then the third little screenshot there, you've got the tall person who put the little person or the smaller person on top of their shoulders so that they both could see the game. I think that's equity. I think that's how we handle things and find the best way to make sure everybody can see over the fence to be engaged in whatever is over that fence.
We've reached our final question. Please provide a closing statement sharing your goals for your district and state.
Yeah, so my biggest thing is I want to bring people together. I've sought out being a servant leader the majority of my life, and I've built a knack for bringing what I would consider some polar opposites of people together and being focused on a common goal, and in that process have built some good friendships and at least a respect for one another. And that's how I want to build policy. And I want to do the most good for the most amount of people as often as I can. And I'm trying to genuinely help our constituents in whatever way that is. And then, of course, I'd like to thank you guys for having me here today. And, just remind everybody that I'm Chris Stewart. I'm committed to community. And please vote for me on absentee ballot or November 8th.
Thank you again for being with us, and thanks to you for tuning in to this candidate interview with Chris Stewart, Republican candidate for the 75th District Representative in State Legislature. I'm Sydney Kenzer, inviting you to watch live election night coverage here on HOMTV on Tuesday, November 8th.